President Obama is back from a surprise trip to Afghanistan, arriving in time to hear criticism regarding his speech, sustain Mitt Romney's latest attack lines, witness Newt Gingrich exit from the race, and watch Congress skip town. Home, sweet home. It is Wednesday, May 2nd, and this is Now. Joining me today, Rick Tyler, senior advisor of the pro-Newt Gingrich super PAC, Winning Our Future. The intrepid Maggie Haberman of Politico is here with us, MSNBC political analyst and columnist for The Hill, the lovely Karen Finney, and Mr. Sunday Morning himself, Hugo Lindgren of the New York Times Magazine. President Obama is back in Washington, D.C. after a surprise trip to Afghanistan. Meanwhile, militant attacks killed 7 people and injured more than a dozen in Kabul this morning. The violence came just after the president said this from Bagram Air Base.
Here, in the pre-dawn darkness of Afghanistan, we can see the light of a new day on the horizon.
Karen, I want to go to you first on this. Surely the juxtaposition of the violence in Afghanistan right on the heels of the president's departure. Sure. He's delivering a message of hope, but is there any reason at this point to be optimistic about what will happen to Afghanistan after we leave?
You know, I think we can't know, but I think the president's goal, I don't know that it was so much about hope as much as it was about sending, there was sort of the political message and the psychological message, both for the audience here at home and for the Afghani audiences, and frankly the broader region, which was to the Afghanis, clearly we needed to send a message, we will be here with you, because that is one of the things we've heard over and over and over again in terms of their anxiety. The second thing, clearly, because the president mentioned it so many times, is sovereignty. We will respect your sovereignty. We will make sure that those borders are respected. That also has to do with Pakistan. To the American audience, he was clearly trying to say, he couldn't say, we're getting out right now, which is what most people want to hear, but he kept trying to reiterate, there's a process to get out, we're starting to get out. So again, I think he was trying to walk that fine line, knowing that he wasn't going to get to tell anybody exactly what they want to hear, but yet trying to lay out a process. I think in doing so, he laid out the process through which, if those goals are not met between now and the next 10 years, I think that gives the next president the opportunity to leave.
Hugo, you are smiling that wicked smile.
No, I'm not smiling on the subject of Afghanistan. I mean, what you just described sounds like an almost impossible kind of needle to thread. I mean, it's like 20 needles in a row with like one piece of thread. And it's like, I mean, I think the subject of Afghanistan is just a non-winner for Obama, for pretty much anybody at the moment. So, I mean, I think he had to go. He had to say what he had to say, and then needed to move on to other subjects.
I actually thought he didn't necessarily need to go, right? He could have certainly stayed at home and gone to ground zero, but the fact that he chose to go to Afghanistan, I think the president deserves some credit for that, and it is a difficult needle to thread. Some of the pillars that he outlined, transitioning to Afghan-led forces by 2014, training security forces, this is the vaguest to me. Enduring partnership with Afghanistan, a la a major non-NATO ally in the mold of Israel or Pakistan. That will be very interesting, given where relations are with Hamid Karzai, reconciliation with some in the Taliban. I want to read a quote from Dan Balls in the Washington Post, who gave fairly strong kudos. Can kudos be strong? Gave his kudos to the president, saying, rarely has a president blended the role of commander-in-chief with that of campaigner-in-chief quite as vividly as President Obama has done in the days surrounding the first anniversary of Osama bin Laden's death. Maggie, what do you make of that?
Well, I think it's true. I actually don't read at least that paragraph as praise. I think that paragraph could be read in either direction. But I do think that I think that this was a pretty remarkable thing that we were seeing yesterday. I think that we have not seen this type of address from a war zone before, if memory serves. I think that in terms of the specifics, as you were talking about, there are some very vague outlines there. It does leave room open for a predecessor to change things. It does commit the U.S. To a longer-term goal than I think a lot of people want, certainly than Republicans have expressed an interest in. And there has also been a lack of clarity on the side of the Republicans, without getting into politics too much, about what they would do differently. So I think against that backdrop, I think Obama had a very strong moment, but I don't think there was anything shocking in terms of what he said.
But I thought it was important, though, Alex, to your point. I mean, the choice, if you're going to sign an agreement like that, either Karzai comes here or we go there. I mean, to say we're with you remotely, I think would not have sent the right message. So I think he does deserve credit for going there. It's also, I will point out, a big deal that he chose to take Air Force One, the marked plane. Usually, for security reasons, in a situation like that, you want to take an unmarked plane because it's a lot safer. But again, I think they wanted the visual of the plane that says United States of America on the ground in Afghanistan, again, to send a signal. We're here. We're going to be here. Again, most of us would rather be out.
Is that the signal they want to send? I realize that they do want to send that to
policy, I think that was part of their foreign policy.
We're here. We're going to stay here 2024.
Well, they certainly don't want to hear. Well, they certainly don't want attacks in Kabul within hours of the president's departure.
No, without a doubt.
That is not an object they want. Rick Tyler, I want to bring your attention to what the president said when he was addressing some of the troops before he made his official address and signed the pact. Let's listen to that. This is from yesterday.
The battle's not yet over. Some of your buddies are going to get injured. And some of your buddies may get killed. And there's going to be heartbreak and pain and difficulty ahead. But there's a light on the horizon because of the sacrifices you've made.
This actually, I thought, was, if you talk about the moment, the moment that really struck me from this entire visit, it's him talking to the troops and reminding us all that it ain't over and people are going to get killed. Rick, what did you make of that? I mean, we talk about the difficulty of threading the needle in terms of policy, but here you're talking to guys who are still on the front lines and saying, trying to reassure them that the ultimate sacrifice will not be made in vain.
I think this may surprise you, and I think my reticence is that I think the president's visit, the way it was orchestrated, the optics of it, were nearly pitch perfect. The whole idea that it was America's victory, I think going on the death of Osama bin Laden was a perfectly opportune occasion. Dax will get mad at me, but I think it was destroyed, absolutely destroyed, because they ran this political ad. Because it put this
bracketing
exactly. They didn't have to do it. It's like a bad sitcom where you have to tell me when to laugh. I get it. The performance was magnificent, except that they run this stupid ad, and now I got to look at it through the eyes of political. I didn't have to. I could have enjoyed that moment as an American, but now I have to look at it through a political lens.
Well, we have conscientiously not discussed the political aspect, but we were
I tried. I can't avoid it.
And it is absolutely a fair point of discussion. We have to go to break, but we will get into that after the break. The political optics of this. I do think, as commander in chief, it was a singular moment.
But I do think to the substance, look, there will be no lasting peace. We will have enemies. I don't think Afghanistan, as it is set today, will be a self-sustaining government society. I have no evidence of that. I think it'll fall apart. But as an event, it was terrific.
I think also in terms of his address to the troops, I think that was actually significant given there have been a lot of issues in terms of the Mideast, a lot of issues in terms of the troops. I think that was where this was the most important moment.
And I think it was probably the most important part for President Obama as well, who's made a real point about interfacing with the troops and, going to Dover when the caskets come home.